We'll start off with our telomere support, and that's Thursday night, going into the science of that, going into it fairly deep. Uh, and then we'll answer any questions based on that information, and then we'll go from there. We like to, on Thursday night, for sure, is like our telomere night. So we want to make sure we start off with that, cover that. And then if there's any other guests that are on, we like to kind of cater to their needs with the product information. So if anybody else has any other questions or inquiries, we can discuss that.
I
But let's
think
go
Dr.
ahead and
Roger wanted to hear about the cleanse as well.
okay, the cleanse. We'll talk about that after we go through the telomere. We'll hit on the cleansing and go into the science of that, which I love that. I just finished my intermittent cleanse. I mean, fasting's biblical, but when we can support our bodies while we're doing that, it's a win-win. All right, let's do it. I'm going to mute this out just so we don't get any background noise. I'll make a couple of our famous leaders here co-hosts. Randy, Malcolm, you should be a co-host, and Dr. Rogers, I'll make you a co-host if you want to chime in. Full of knowledge and lots of value brought to this this Zoom here tonight. All right, let's do it. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. I'll share the screen.
Looks like you got a lot of get fiddles behind you there.
Yeah, yeah, my new hobby. Okay, let's find. Well, let's just go through with the telomere support. I'll start with my story. Uh, Depending on the length of our telomere, and we'll cover that if that's a fairly new word to you, or I've lectured at doctor symposiums. I was invited to speak. Dr. Bill, or geneticist Bill Andrews, Dr. Bill Andrews, he really credited me and he said, Dave, because he mentored me. And when I got his information and really immersed myself in it, I'm like, everybody needs to know this, but not in the way a scientist would teach it. We need to teach it in a way that everybody will understand it. And Dr. Bill said, Dave, that's the best presentation I've ever seen. You've taken a really complicated research and made it easy for everybody to understand. And we traveled around the country. We lectured together. It was a really awesome time. So when the length of our telomeres are going to determine how youthful we are in every way, our organs and how we look. And I was on the product for a certain amount of time, and I all of a sudden thought about motocross. I had never done a motocross track before. I wanted to, but my mom wouldn't let me. So I just rode out in the fields and with my friends and stuff. But I was 48 years old, and I hadn't thought about a dirt bike for probably over 20 years easily. It just was off the radar. And I'm feeling so young and so like a teenager again. And I'm not kidding on that, endurance wise, everything. And I thought, motocross, why don't I do that? I don't live at home with my mom anymore. So I went and bought a dirt bike, bought a truck to haul that dirt bike around and headed to the motocross track. And it was really difficult and it was fun to learn and go through that process. But I got really good and I realized I'm staying on the track longer than the teenagers are. Like I wasn't getting tired out. And I even talked the track owner to let me go there during the week when nobody was there, it was closed, and he let me. So I'd go 3, 4, 5 days in a row, kind of like Malcolm skiing 5, 6, 7 days in a row. And I wasn't tired. I'd recover and I'd go the next day. And motocross is one of the most physically demanding sports. Well, eventually you're going to crash. That's just the way it is. And this one was pretty bad. It shattered my leg. And a long story short, the doctor, who was one of about 7 doctors, they said that could really do these surgeries. And he actually lived right here in St. George, Utah, Dr. Butterfield. And he said, you may be up to a year before you could put all your weight on this, and you're going to have a hard time with it the rest of your life. That's just you have the worst fracture you could have. It's worse than having a bone sticking through your leg or through your skin. And it shattered it into pieces. And I told him I wanted, I would like to run a marathon someday. He's like, you'll never run again. And then he went into this whole spill. And he was kind of like shaking his finger at me, like, you should have known better than riding a motocross track at your age. So long story short, I knew what I had with the telomere support because I'd already been sharing it with people and watching their recovery. And now I really want you to hear this because this is important in the relationship to understanding how important telomeres are. I've watched people before I had my accident heal in a fraction of the time, like an eighth of the time. And I saw people who had trauma 10, 20, 30 years earlier, and they were still dealing with pain from that and movement, and it was going away for them completely. And they were just besides themselves. And so I knew I was going to heal faster and I would heal completely. And long story short, in 3 months from the day of the accident, I ran stadiums. 3 months. I was in bed for 6 weeks without even getting out. I was in the wheelchair for 2 weeks. So that's a month and a half. A month and a half later, I'm running stadiums and no pain at all. And I didn't have any muscle atrophy either. A nurse pointed that out at a presentation. I'd never said anything about that. But she said, yeah, you were off your feet for basically almost 2 months and you didn't have any muscle atrophy. So I contribute that to the telomere support and keeping that system together and communicating, and also the nutritional support, the protein, like what Dr. Rogers was talking about. So there's my story. This kid right here, since birth, he couldn't move his right arm. His name's Benny. And they sent me this video and
then check the strength. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Wow, Benny.
Look at how relaxed his arm is. Watch, just put your arm.
Nice.
What the
he had no
heck?
movement in that right arm. And we have, let's see, Sharon right here. She was born legally blind and she had motor skill issues. So she always had to have some kind of apparatus to help her go from one place to the next or one place to another. And she said, she even used a wheelchair. And now she's 2020. Her optometrist would not put it in her file. He thought his machine broke. I guess he just had a disconnect in his brain. And so she had to go to another optometrist to get that she can see 2020. And so she can get her license. She's walking fine. She's bowling and she's in her, I think, mid 30s. So we've had her share on our Zooms before. Pretty amazing. That's since birth. So telomeres could be interrupted when you're in the womb. Different factors, mostly chemicals. So, a lot of these issues that originate in the womb has something to do with a telomere. They've actually related every degenerative disease to telomeres because it's the degenerative. Well, we'll go into that in a minute. Karen, she already turned in the funeral home paperwork. She had several issues. I think one of the biggest ones was pulmonary, if I remember right, Malcolm. Malcolm invited her to come to a meeting I did in Vegas. And we would do them at the Herbally Grounded out there on Charleston. And anyway, she barely made it. She was homebound. She had been bedridden for basically like 4 years. She kept herself alive longer than they thought because she turned to holistic, treatments and taking that path. But they said, you're not going to make it past December. So she had already turned in the funeral home paperwork. And this is her 3 days after getting on our product. You talk about the body having this ability to heal itself and to do it quickly. Like when you see a plant that's almost dead, and they were studying telomeres in plants before they could really study them in humans. When a plant's almost dead from neglecting it, and then you start watering it again, it pretty much starts to turn around right away, and then it goes all the way back to full recovery. Well, that's the telomere repairing itself in a plant. And they knew that, and they could see it all molecularly, but they couldn't understand it in humans. Anyway, there she is. 2 days later, she got on the pills that night at the meeting. And that's 3 days later. She came to our company event and stayed for 6 hours, bought a bunch of products in the store, made Malcolm help her carry her to her car. Her and her husband were besides themselves. We were getting all kinds of texts from them as she was having this transformation. And now she's still alive today. She's thriving. She does Pilates and just loving life. And the funeral home called and her daughter answered and said, where's Karen's body? We thought we would see it by now. And her daughter said, well, she decided to live, and hung up. So this is the power of the human body, not our product. The product is the nutritional support. It's not doing the work. The body's doing the work innately. It's just helping the body to produce more of that enzyme, that healing enzyme. It's called telomerase. One more here, and then I'll get into the science of it. Another one that is, when I said the other day, Randy, I heard somebody said, "Did he save somebody's life?" And I'm like 4 or 5 or 6 people would not be alive if it wasn't for Malcolm. So Karen's one of them. Bill here, Malcolm reached out to Yolanda, didn't even know if Bill was still alive, and find out he barely was. They thought he might die on this hunting trip. They thought, well, at least he'll die doing something that he enjoys doing, better than sitting around on the couch waiting to die. That's his 6 month transformation. He went from 134 pounds to 181 pounds. You talk about systems working better. And he also utilized the protein from isogenics. So it was a 1-2 punch. He's healing his telomeres, and then he's getting this 100% bioavailable protein, which is better than egg whites, which is about 60%. So he started working out, which is his passion. And he's on a mission now to break the world record for somebody over 70 years old. I think he's 74 now. He sent me this picture. Then he had another picture where he's flexing and showing his back muscles. And he said, I had like 6 surgeries on my back and my hips. And he's just really, really happy with his results. There it is. I didn't know I had that here. So pretty amazing how these bones can start to communicate based on the information in the DNA, which course corrects. All right, let's go to, we can go on and on with more and more stories. So let's go to the telomere. Bill would always say, it's like the plastic tip on a shoestring. The telomere is like that plastic tip that holds the shoestring together. And when the plastic tip starts to deteriorate, the shoestring starts to fray. We're all familiar with that fraying with the shoestring, right? But as the telomere gets shorter and shorter, and I'm representing it with this red electrical tape. I made this with a rope. And so I'm just showing like dramatic, like it takes a while to go from here to here. It'd be like watching grass grow. You don't see it happen with the naked eye, but over time. So I'm just showing the different stages. And this would be like midlife, where you're seeing the symptoms of aging and some degenerative issues. You're not like on the dirt bike track anymore. And that's because there's systems that aren't working optimally. Well, the reason there has to be a reason, right? A cause for why they're not working optimally. Most people don't think about this. I never did till I learned this from Bill. It's missing the information in the cells and in your organs. And so the organs aren't performing. And every cell has chromosomes, a nucleus and chromosomes and telomeres. Every cell does in your entire body. It's all made up of cells. And so if the telomeres are shortening in a certain part of your body at an accelerated rate, or just even at the average rate, but you can accelerate it, then you're going to have issues in that particular part of the body. So if you're around this area right here, then let's say that's in your blood vessels, like your cardiovascular vessels, and it's only in one part where chemicals were actually bombarding that part of your cardiovascular blood vessels for whatever reason. So the aneurysm can happen right in that spot because the blood vessel wall isn't going to structurally hold itself together properly. It's going to malfunction. And so that's where it burst open and then you die. And that's because those cells weren't performing in the way that they would when they're performing optimally. So that's the cause and effect. And there are all different kinds of things that Bill has proven in his lab that accelerates this process. And 2 of the biggest factors that I'll pass on is trans fats and preservatives. You're eating a Twinkie, you're eating Doritos, anything that's packaged and put on the shelf is going to have preservatives in it, which is a chemical. That shortens your telomeres faster, and so do trans fats. What are people eating today? A lot of fast food with the trans fats and a lot of junk food that's preservatives, ultra processed foods. And that's why kids today, and on the front page of USA Today, it was April 2000, I think 11 or 12, I think it was 2012. Somebody brought it in to a presentation I was doing back east. And they said, look at this. Right on the front, it said children's telomeres are significantly shorter than they used to be for their age. Nobody would have known what that meant. What's a telomere? Most doctors don't even know. So why is it so much shorter in the kids today? Because they're eating, from what I learned from Bill, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. They're eating a lot of processed food. fast foods. Mom and dad are bringing home Kentucky Fried Chicken or Taco Bell, and they're pulling things out of the cupboard, and eating it that way. Now, when this telomere gets a little bit shorter, that's when it reaches senescence, and that's death of the cell. They call it the Hayflick limit because Professor Leonard Hayflick is the one that identified when do the cells shut down. All right, so a lot of science there. The nucleic bonds are separating right there, and that's what's, degenerating and losing the DNA, the information. So here's Bill being featured in Popular Science, about a 14-page article on Bill and his research, one of the longest articles ever on one person in their science, about 14 pages. So again, as the chromosomes get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, and bad things start to happen with our health. Bill identified human telomerase, not plant telomerase, human telomerase in human cells in 1994. And when he identified how it's being produced in the cell on that molecular level, him and his team put together protocols and systems to try to activate more of that enzyme, induce it, get it to produce more. And he believed, just based on his own theory, that the telomere would start to win the tug of war and the body would start healing this problem and reversing it. Never happened before, but that's what he believed would cure aging. He came up with a book called Curing Aging, and that's the picture on the front cover right there. So he actually did it in 1997 with human cells cultured in vitro. He got the cells to produce more of the enzyme, and they saw right in front of their eyes the telomere and the nucleic bonds reestablishing their connections right in front of their eyes under the microscope. And they're like, high five, we did it. I knew it, right? Because other research were saying, you're going down the wrong rabbit hole. So he said in that article, if we could do that to this guy, it doesn't matter that he's 70, 75, 80. If we could get his gene expression back to 100%, he'd go back expressing the gene expression of a late 20-year-old. And so now we're seeing, like Randy, with your back, we're seeing your back operating in a way that it did when it was running more optimally. That's because of the innate nature of the body to heal itself. But now we're doing it on a level it's never been done before. I believe this is the greatest breakthrough for mankind in our time. And not just because of the information, but because we now have something to support and produce those kind of results. Now, Bill Andrews and his research team for over a decade had tried 304,000 different activators, natural, chemical. He said, we even invented our own chemicals, like working with, the genetics of them. And they got 8 of them to work. That's what these red lines indicate. They reversed that, the cells started healing themselves on that level with each one of these, but they were all chemicals that couldn't be used. So here they are over a decade, 30 million in the hole, and they haven't gotten any closer to facilitating it in humans. He partnered up with Isogenics, and that's the whole story behind it. Science and wellness usually does not meet eye to eye. But thanks to Peter Greenlaw, he made it happen. And John Anderson said, if I had known this about telomeres, I would have formulated for them a long time ago. I believe everything that I've learned has prepared me for this moment, and I feel very optimistic. And I know Bill, and he's shared this, not on the stage, but he shared it with me and a few others. He said, yeah, I was kind of rolling my eyes. Like, Peter got us together, but I wasn't expecting anything from John Anderson. And little did he know, let me mute that out, that John, in months, was able to do what they couldn't do in over a decade with all natural ingredients that they even tried. It's the symbiotic formulation and the alkaline and the acidity and what goes first. And it's a whole process. It's actually pharmaceutical grade formulation. And so he did what a team of researchers weren't able to do. And he sent them over in these little bottles. And they're all, we don't know what's in there. He's told us the ingredients, but that doesn't tell us anything. And there's a bunch of them right there. So that's me with Lancer and Bill, Bill's lab, and Malcolm took that picture. So that's the story. Now you know the rest of the story, and you know more about telomeres than 99.9% of everybody on the planet. They're just not teaching it out there like this because people haven't embraced this. They haven't embraced this, but I believe with the brand partnering, we're going to just shoot this to the moon because, you know, we're removing all the other obstacles that were tied to this product before and all the things that you had to commit to and be and do. Now we're just going to start getting this into the masses. I believed it would be a household name a long time ago. I thought it would have happened a long time ago, but I think we'll do that now. So this is the ABC News clip talking about, so Bill did that with the human cells, published his work, and he wanted more researchers to like dive in and help him figure this out. And Harvard piggybacked off of his research. And about a decade later, they were able to do that in mice. And then, boom, the Nobel Prize was given to telomere research.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding, but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size. As for humans, while it is just one factor, scientists now say by looking at our blood cells and measuring those telomeres, you can get a better idea of how well you'll age. The longer the telomere, the better the chances for a more graceful aging. But as for tinkering with them and turning back our aging process, researchers say we still have a long way to go.
And that's where they still are mentally today. We still have a long way to go. They don't know about this. Even though we've had people in the medical community see what's happened to their patients, they just dismiss it. Like, this is serious business. We're talking, you know, between quality of life and terrible quality of life and even death. I take this very serious. I'm sure I've done over 10,000 presentations on this since we've released the product. I've even went over to Europe to lecture on it. So I take it very serious because, again, our health is our number one asset. It could be a living hell for a lot of people because their health isn't good. And again, I just want to reiterate, that's where they're at today. They still think there's nothing we can do about it, right? So it's up to us to get this out there. And I believe with the brand partnering, we could just really launch this into the next level.
And now,
so this is a really good clip. This is a doctor in Florida, board certified medical doctor. And he started giving his patients the product, and everything started, you know, changing. I'm going to say it compliantly. Everything started changing in a positive way for all of his patients with everything. And they actually say in the news clip, all the things. I had to clip that out because as a representative, I can't make those claims like they did in the news episode. But let's just take a quick look at this.
Imagine if all you had to do was take 2 pills twice a day to stay younger longer. But we got your attention now.
Scientists working with a company called Isogenics say that they have promising results. Mike Holfeld looked into a latest version of the Fountain of Youth.
To be clear, it's a supplement, not a prescription drug. People that take it say they feel better and younger. Now, the medical community is starting to take notice.
Is anybody excited?
5,000 men and women packed a Las Vegas convention hall this past summer for the unveiling of a supplement that, in theory, makes old cells young again. The formula? Product B.
We're very excited about the results that we have.
Popular Science calls Dr. William Andrews the man who would stop time. The PhD in genetics work is based on the 2009 Nobel Prize-winning discovery of telomeres, the DNA on the tips of chromosomes that actually holds the key to why we get old. You felt the symptoms of aging?
Absolutely. I was 40 and I felt like I was 50. Now I'm 45 and I feel like I'm 30.
Stacy Cartwright has been taking the formula for more than a year. She's convinced this blend of vitamins and plant extracts reversed her physical decline, from thinning hair to weight gain. Remember the telomeres? Scientists discovered they protect our chromosomes. Each time our cells divide, a small portion of those telomeres shorten.
When the telomere reaches a certain length, the cell dies. That's cell biology.
But the Nobel Prize-winning research found the key to that cell biology, telomerase, an enzyme that essentially lengthens telomeres, keeps them alive longer. Dr. Andrews and his research team says Product B activates that enzyme in all of our cells.
I don't think there is a fountain of youth.
But this is pretty close?
Oh, yeah. It's improving quality of life.
Quality of life right there. So, you know, there's some things that just reported on. I want to also say too, I haven't said this in a long time. Bill and his girlfriend Molly, they're ultra marathon runners, and Molly had run a race in the Himalayas. I think it's like 113 miles, and it goes up and down from like 14,000 feet to 18,000 feet. And people have died running that race. Well, she had tried it before Bill and Isogenics had created this product, and she didn't even get halfway. She gets on the product. The following year, she runs the race, and she's the first female to ever complete it. And then Bill's like feeling so young, he decides to do that race the following year. He's the oldest person to complete that race. And then as Bill's doing the ultra marathons, they do them all the time, and he's winning the age group below him and the age group below that. It was like 3 age groups below him. He was outperforming their times. So when we talk about cardiovascular, it's not only like, it seems to take it even to that next level as you push it. So just some really cool science there, some awesome, amazing stories. And let's see, I'll go to 2 more stories. Well, this one, I got to show this one. And then we'll go to Bob Sheridan. This is Minnie, and I can't remember exactly. This was way back towards the beginning. I think Minnie was like 82 or something like that, 85. And when I met her, she was so hunched over, her chin was stuck to her chest, and you couldn't have a normal conversation with her. Here she is 5 months later. This was her before, and that's how she always was with her chin. And here she is with her chin up off of her chest. So that's a bone structure, right? And that's when I realized, oh, bone isn't wood. It's part of our living organism with intelligence. And when it loses intelligence, it's going to malfunction. When it gets the intelligence back, it just course corrects. Pretty amazing. And then you could have normal conversations with her as well. And then Bob Sheridan, there's things with the cardiovascular, when you reach a certain level on your ejections that they can measure, there's nothing they can do for you, and your heart never rebounds. And that's when it drops below 19 in ejections. He went in to be checked out because he wasn't feeling good, and he was at 13. And they said, there's nothing we can do for you. We cannot do surgery on you. We can't put a pacemaker in. We can't do anything because you wouldn't get off the table. So they sent him home to die. And the whole boxing community knew it. And here he is 6 months later after he got on the product through some friends of mine, Dennis and Sharon. And the whole uproar in the whole boxing community. And they interviewed him, and he talks all about the product and all of the other things that happened for him as well. And his heart ejections went to 55. That's a high normal. Malcolm and I, when we traveled around, we had 2 people whose pacemakers, they both didn't know the batteries weren't working. And they went in for a checkup. They said, yeah, your batteries aren't working in your pacemaker, but your ejections are fine. Your heart's like in the healthy range. So we don't need to go in and take it out. we'll just leave it in there. And if you ever need it again, we can just go in and put the batteries in. It'll just make it easier. That's like unprecedented territory. And Malcolm and I were seeing this kind of stuff because we were traveling every week. We just saw it again and again and again. That's 1 year later. So there's the telomere story, right? And I'm just going to check in, see if anybody has any questions, any comments. I can unmute this. It really is the greatest breakthrough of our time. Bill Andrews said when the product was released, this will change the landscape of human health as we know it. We'll see people consistently living to be 120 and 125 healthily. And he did say, though, that there are other factors that cause people to die, but he says telomere is the biggest one. But there are other factors that could play. I just want to throw that out there. But by far, telomeres is the biggest issue. And he also said a couple of things that you'll appreciate. And this is right out of Bill's mouth to me as we're lecturing and traveling around. It's helping the body to produce stem cells. That's a big reduction in cost, right? For some people. And then he says this helps the immune system unlike anything I've ever seen. Because you have cells that make up the immune system. And if their telomeres get short, then your immune system isn't going to be as effective. And then you have immunosenescence, which is death of your immune system, basically. So those were some other things I just wanted to throw out there that I learned firsthand from Bill. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
When can we get this?
Yeah, Randy can help you with that.
Wow.
Yep. And that's the response when I was traveling around doing to live meetings. Karen's like, I want it tonight. And she was going through the crowd. Hey, do you have any? And somebody had some in their purse of their own personal use. And she bought some pills. She said, I'm not going to let you give them to me for free. She paid like $2 a bill or something like that. And she got like 10 of them from her and started on them that night. Go ahead, Bob.
What's the relationship to dose? I mean, almost everything we take, there's a economic dose, there's an optimum dose, there's a minimum dose. What's the relationship to dose?
Yeah, so it's been a journey with the product. We've gone through name changes. We've gone through the type of pill that they've delivered it in as it's evolved. And now it's 2 a day is what it says on the bottle. But you could easily double up. When I was talking to John Anderson one time, he said, you can't OD on this. It doesn't matter how much you take. And I said, well, what if you clogged up your esophagus? But he said you couldn't OD on it. Your body would just get rid of whatever it doesn't need. But when I did that to my leg, I was doing 4 every 4 hours because that's when I needed the pain meds. And I was only on pain meds for a little over a week, like less than 2 weeks. It was amazing. But I was still in bed for 6 weeks. But I was doing 4 because I'd set my alarm and I'd just take 4 more pain meds and fall back asleep because that's all they do to me. And then I would just take 4 of the pills. So I was taking like 18, 24 of them in a 24-hour period. And then when I started, getting up and about, I went to 12 and then I went to 8. And I did 8 for like 8 a day for like a year, which would have been doubling the doses back then. Because we were doing 4 a day. So if somebody's wanting to see quicker results, the quickest results would be 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 before bed. But even 2 in the morning and 2 at night is going to be double. So, and we did see results happen faster for people when they doubled up. In fact, someone said, I'm not really feeling anything from it. I said, well, try doubling up. And she got back with me about 4 weeks later. She said, yep, that's me. I need, back then it would have been 8 a day. So does that answer your question, Bob?
Sure.
If somebody's in a critical condition, man, I would not hesitate to double and triple up. I had a guy, and I'm not making any claims, but he had neuroblastoma. And I went out and did a meeting in Bend, Oregon, and had never been there. That's a beautiful little cool town. And he came to the meeting. And they grabbed me and they came early and they were blasting him right on his head. And they said, yeah, the hair will never grow back. And he had all kinds of little, I don't know what you'd call them, tumors or whatever. And they were just blasting him. And neuroblastoma, or I think that's what it's called, like you're goner, right? And he said they're actually shrinking. Some of them have disappeared. Some are so small they could barely see them. And the hair fuzz was growing back. They told him the hair would never grow back in that spot. So again, just I'm throwing out some things for you guys to be able to relate to. Um, Unfortunately, Bob, if your cells have reached senescence, you're not going to resurrect them. But if there's anything there that's still telomere, we had some incredible stories with hair with the telomere support, especially for women.
Well, Malcolm shared with me today. How old is your that dog, Malcolm?
Billy is coming up on 21 years old.
What, 21? Now,
Yeah.
hold on a second here. 21. Now, I'm in the dog world. Okay, everybody knows Cynthia and I we have like a dog ranch here. Okay, so we really know dogs. And 21, if you figure out how old 21 is in human years, you're talking 130 plus. Dr. Roger and I are talking about it today. They're talking more than 130. This is a dog. Dogs don't have placebo. They can't fake it till they make it, because the money doesn't matter and all that happy stuff. 21. I mean, I can tell the story about my Chesapeake, and y'all know that story because I didn't believe Malcolm, right? I like Malcolm. Well, actually, I love him now, but I just liked him at the time. But I didn't know how much I actually liked him. Maybe not much. When he kept bugging me, I really didn't like him. But, the reality of it is give it to the dog first, right? But more than one dog had phenomenal results. It's like, whoa, that was something right there. You got to scratch your head a little bit and go, that could happen to me. Maybe, I don't know. So I went ahead and took it anyway with a little faith, not a lot of faith, little faith. And today, man, I'm telling you what, I am not joking. I might be old, but I feel like I'm 35, and it is crazy. No pain. I don't even understand it. I have no pain. And I'm telling you, I have severe stenosis in my spine. My discs are pushing on my spinal cord, blah, 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 blah. And I feel fabulous. And I've been working like crazy. Y'all know this. And I don't make this stuff up. I mean, it's I have no reason to make it up. And I do have to tell you, Dave, I do love Malcolm more than you now, for sure. But I just thought I'd clarify.
As long as it's only a little bit more.
So.
Hey, even Jesus had his favorites, I think.
That's right. Well, I'm going to tell you what, man. It is so, you have to tell the story. Yeah, even if let's say it helped my dog, and I wanted to share that story because it's so profound with somebody else and their animal, right? Which is this can go into the animal kingdom. I mean, it's not just for the human kingdom; it could go into the animal kingdom. Think about the marketing even there, right? Well, I mean, we're not bound to just humans. We can go into that animal kingdom, and they take one a day. That's what we give our dogs, one a day. And Malcolm, I think that's what you give yours, isn't it? About one a day or so.
Yeah. Well, what happens is when he sleeps in my bedroom, and sometimes he won't go to sleep until I give him another one. So every now and then he gets two. It's comical.
We have a lot of dog stories and some horses too. We have some race horses where they lay horses down when the frog doesn't grow back in because it just debilitates them. And so Lisa Grippentrog was able to get into that little arena, and the frog was growing back like to perfect.
Wow.
And they could not believe it because they said there's so many supplements out here trying to do that and they just don't measure up. And here's these, and the horses were getting better times on the product, just like me on the motocross track, right? So that's pretty profound. Malcolm, I don't remember her name, but we did a couple meetings at her home up in the Coarse Gold area, and her horse, she was going to lay it down because it had a wound in its leg that it was an open wound and it wasn't going to heal. And they were about to lay it down, and they gave that horse and it healed right up. What was her name? Do you remember her name?
Yeah, I've forgotten who that was.
Yeah, we did it. They had a beautiful home that up in the mountains, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
you guys.
so Dr. Roger wanted to hear a little bit about the cleanse. We covered the
Yeah.
um, shakes and building muscle, but we he wanted to hear a little bit about how we are able to deal with the interstitial fat, and maybe see some of the pictures of the MRIs of interstitial fat disappearing, because that's my story, is releasing 15 pounds of belly fat in the first 9 days. That would be 2 cleanse days, and then
Yeah, we'll go into that. Yeah. Yeah.
5 shake days, and then 2 more cleanse days, total of 9 days, released 15 pounds of belly fat. Thought my scale was broken. It was just hard for me to wrap my head around what had happened. And of course, I felt like $1,000,000. So I kept going through basically the entire month of December of 2016. Didn't miss Christmas dinner, didn't miss any of the parties, but released a total of 25 pounds in 30 days. And of course, Dave, what you released, 27 pounds in 25 days.
Yep.
So, but if you could explain a little bit about how that works with Dr. Roger.
Yeah. So let me just set this up a little bit. So what I did was something unique to everybody else in isogenics. When that telomere support came out, I took special interest in that. And the more I learned from Bill Andrews, the more I realized this is the greatest product. Like, if this works based on the science, because we didn't know yet, the product had just came out, then I'm like, this is a game changer. So it started working, and there was so many stories that were, anecdotal, but still they were like consistent across the board. And so I thought, I'm going to focus just on this product. And it was kind of a evolution of me doing that. And what I found out is if I talked about other products, it just got lost in the mix. And I didn't want that to happen with this product. So what ended up happening is I whittled away, and I just started doing presentations just on the telomere support. And even though there's other products that are main pillars that are a part of my life that are just as important, but I would say the telomere is the most impactful by far. But the other ones are impactful to me, and they're important, and they're giving me the results that I want, that I couldn't get any other way. But I thought, if I get them on this product, then they'll learn about the other products, and they'll kind of organically start trying things out like any normal person would. And what I found was they did that faster than I realized. And they were getting on more products than not just the pillars, they were buying everything. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. So I created a whole team in there, and like, Sheila, you're not on my team, but that's basically why you follow this, what we're doing on these Zooms and our website. And it's just an easier way to make the introduction, not confuse people, and not to bottleneck it, and not to get it washed down in all of the amazing information that we have. So let me just say that first. And as we introduce people, I think staying focused, and I proved it. I mean, because I chose, after getting on the products as a customer, unwillingly, I might add, it was because of my wife, that after a certain amount of time, I looked into the opportunity of sharing these products. I mean, I liked changing people's oil, but I would rather change their lives than their oil. I was a mechanic for 15 years. And I wanted to be a health teacher and a PE coach, but I dropped out of high school, so that doesn't go together very well. So when this came along and I could start helping people with their health and coaching them and things like that, I fell in love with it. And so I took advantage of the opportunity because it was my passion to do that. But when I switched to just exclusively sharing this one product, it took me to $1 million a year plus in just 2 years. 2 years. I was on the stage, I was doing training, they spotlighted me, they gave me the Man of the Year award in the entire company in 2015. And so they do that because of the results, right? So why did that happen for? Because I made it exclusive. And what I noticed too, what was gravitating to the meetings? People 50 and older. people who had their wits about them. They knew what they wanted out of life. They weren't fickle. They weren't jumping here and there. So I've built a solid customer foundation, and then also a lot of great business partners that were in their golden years, which couldn't ask for more, right? So I just want to set that up before I go into these other products, because we do fall in love with them and we want other people to be on them. But just remember, simplicity is really the ultimate sophistication. Who said that? It was some famous guy back in the 1700s. All right, so let's go into this Cleanse for Life. I'll just start off with this book, Nutritional Healing. Susan Sly did a presentation, and this was back in like 2008, 2009. And so I bought the same book, and we have about 100 active ingredients in the Cleanse for Life. It looks like this. The labeling looks even better now. I like their whole wellness, isogenics, and the way that they're branding it now. But this is it. It comes in liquid form and it comes in powdered form. And they invented a whole new technology and equipment to get it from liquid to powder and not lose any of the potency of the ingredients that are in it. And they've done that with the Ionic Supreme as well. So out of that, let's just hit real quick a few of the ingredients that are in here. And aloe is very healing, right? Like cholesterol is a healing salve that the body produces too. It gets a bad rap. It's just trying to heal the scarring in the blood vessels. However, if you get too much, I guess it can cause a problem. But aloe does a better job than cholesterol. So it will lower cholesterol by doing this cleanse. And all of this has clinically been proven out of the book. It stimulates cell regeneration, antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, because it's healing the scarring. And then your body's not going to build up the excess fluid because of that scarring and inflammation, because the aloe does an incredible job. And we use the inner heart fillet of the aloe. If you press the skin with it, it cancels that very restorative property. So you got to get, the skin separated from the heart, and then you extract. Regenerative. Okay, so lots of great things from aloe. I'm not going to go too much into each of these ingredients, but you can just kind of get an idea. Licorice root is in there. Been shown to help people with MS. So we were seeing incredible results with this product as well. Antibacterial, antiviral. I mean, it helps to get rid of extracellular water that makes your finger swell, so you can't take your ring off, and your ankles swell. I was standing behind a lady at an event in line, and we were waiting to just say hi to Dr. Jack Canfield, and her ring fell off, her diamond ring right in front of me. She was just having her hand hang down, and it fell off right on the floor. I picked it up. I said, "Is this your diamond ring? It just fell off your finger." She's like, "Yeah, ever since I cleansed, it just keeps falling off. I need to get it resized." A lot of different things with licorice root, very powerful. Herbal, holistic way of supporting the body with licorice root. Burdock root supports the liver function, which is very, especially in today and how much abuse the liver is getting. Helps with cell mutation. Burdock root does. Again, helps with inflammation, gallbladder functions, cleanses the blood, antifungal, antibacterial. I've had so many people talk about this with gout after they've cleansed. And just like they tried everything, they've seen all the doctors, nothing's ever helped, and all of a sudden, they're not dealing with it anymore. Yellow dock, blood and kidney cleanser. We have a video on YouTube where they're showing the blood cells and the blood work before and after. There was a nurse practitioner that she would go across the country and take people's blood and then do a before and after they cleansed. Helps to chelate out the heavy metals, which is so important in today's world environment. Then you have Podiarco. You can just see some of these things here real quick. Peppermint, Eleuthero. It's an adaptogen. We really love adaptogens and isogenics. A lot of what you would call Ayurvedic herbs are in the isogenic spot, especially the Ionic Supreme. Okay, so there's those things. I think that was it. Yeah. So, well, I'll just stay here on this slide. I think I will have to hop around a little bit. I got this at a chiropractor's office, and it's showing the detox organs. and how the body should be getting rid of stuff. And the colon is one. But when the colon's all filled with the mucoid, it becomes a leaky gut. It's not only not eliminating the metabolic waste before it goes in the body and things that won't be utilized, it's contributing to that stuff getting into the body. And then the liver, anything that gets past the colon goes through the liver via the blood. And in an unhealthy body, the liver is not even going to detect these things that don't belong in the body. So what they do is they get right on through, and now they're going to circulate into the body and end up wherever they end up. And so in 2000, let's see, I think it was 2005 or six, this was on the cover of Newsweek magazine. And we had been talking about how with isogenics, we're helping to detox the body. And the company didn't really like us saying that back then, detox toxins out. But a lot of people that were catching wind of isogenic, we were even in the news because of the weight loss that was happening, extreme weight loss for morbidly obese people. But that's a side benefit of cleansing. We're not a diet program. And these people were coming out, even like Dr. Oz was poo-pooing isogenics. You don't need to support your body to cleanse. But now they've all changed their tune. And about 4 years later, after isogenics came out, this came out. That's a toxin, that little red thing. And this is a fat cell. And they're saying, yeah, your body will harbor the toxins in the fat. And you can call it brown fat, dirty fat, toxic fat. But once those toxins get in there, you're not getting rid of that fat. So as they build up, the fat cells, you don't produce more fat cells. They just get bigger. They expand and get bigger and bigger. And the ones that don't get into the fat cell get into your organs. And if they're carcinogenic, they're going to start damaging your telomere, and then you're going to develop cancer. So, and all kinds of hormone problems, because they're hormone blockers, they plug up the receptors on your hormone receptors, and all kinds of problems with toxins, right? We're hearing about microplastics now. We've been talking about that since I got in. We're like, don't put anything in the microwave with plastic. It just bombards your food with the chemicals that are in the plastic. And they make things to put in, like the burritos and the TV dinners, like leave the plastic on, don't take it off. Crazy. So in a healthy body that's getting the nourishment it needs, these organs will perform the way they're supposed to and address the environment and the things that are in our foods that don't belong there. So when the toxin comes in, a healthy liver will recognize it, and it'll put this water-soluble substance around that toxin, which then triggers it. Instead of going in and feeding the organs, it's sent to the kidneys, and then you're urinating it out. In our clinical study, we 300% more toxins were released through the urination process than eating a healthy whole food diet. 300% more toxins. And Dr. Paul said there's only 2 of these machines that will measure these kinds of toxins from your urine. There's one in my office, and the other one's floating around somewhere in Europe. So clinically, we've shown to remove then a healthy diet, right? What about people who are eating the ultra processed foods and an unhealthy lifestyle? Imagine probably like 1,000% more toxins being removed. There's no toxins being removed from a ultra processed diet. They're just coming in and flooding the body, right? And that's why we see people morbidly obese. The body does not need that kind of extra calories for a rainy day. It's why they invented liposuction too, because when that's in there, your body's not going to get rid of it. So they just go in and suck the fat out, right? We'll show it, we'll get rid of it. Well, that would do more harm to the person, because now what's going to absorb the toxins in their body? So skinny people need to cleanse and detox, probably more so than fat. I mean, it's probably weighs out and balanced, right? Like both need to do it for important reasons. So the dieting, which is a big issue, what is it? 77% of adults are obese now in the United States. When I joined, it was just under 30% back in 2005. Now it's 77%. So let's say this is the fat cell, and these little red things represent the toxins, and the white inside there is the fat. When you go on a diet, you're calorie restricting, which is an increment of energy. You got to have it. So if you're not putting the calories and energy in through your food source, your body's going to go to the fat cell and start utilizing those calories. And it shrinks the fat cell in the beginning, but then you hit a plateau. So when you shrink the fat cell, you release the toxins into the cardiovascular system. And where they were tucked away, Now they're floating around. Now the body knows this and it goes into plateau mode. It will not let you release any more weight. Doesn't matter if you're an extreme athlete doing all the right things and exercising. You cannot outwork and outperform a nutritionally deficient diet. And every athlete that's at the upper levels professionally knows that. We had a two-time world champion. I need to get his picture. He looks like a He-Man figure doll. And he won. He's from Hawaii. He released 2 inches off of his waist. 2 inches off of his waist as a two-time national champion. We've had people who have never placed in bodybuilding competitions take first place. I think we had like at one point 7 Miss Universes in isogenics, thanks to isogenics. So when you eat more calories, and it doesn't need to be a Snickers bar, it could even be healthy food. As long as you get more calories in, your liver is going to pump out more fat and you're going to rebound. And that's why a calorie restricted diet never works. I remember listening to Deepak Chopra and he said 100% of calorie restricted diets fail. We know this scientifically. Well, because you can't maintain the lifestyle that's doing this. It takes too much willpower and eventually willpower wears off. So that's the rebound. Now, I was in this mode when my wife found isogenics. I was riding my bike to work every day. It was 100 miles every 5 days. I did a 20-mile loop. And then I was running stadiums at the college football stadium. I was lifting weights. I was juicing, eating super healthy, like eating tuna out of a can with maybe a little Tabasco and sea salt on it and some pepper, no mayo or anything like that. I was even eating salads with like lemon squeezed on it. I'm just extreme that way. Oatmeal, just plain oatmeal with hot water. And it wasn't working and I was getting really ornery and I lost 5 pounds immediately and then it stopped. And I still needed to lose over another 50 pounds. And so I was in this mode. Why so quickly for me? Because I had been a mechanic for 15 years. I was bathing in toxins, cleaning the grease off of my hands with the solvent tank, breathing in the brake cleaner and all of that stuff all day long. So I had so many toxins. My face was swollen. It was just crazy. Mental fog, fatigue. So, but it's very frustrating when you're putting that kind of effort forward. So about ready to quit my diet, the guy said, hey, stop exercising. I want you to see what this nutrition will do for you. I don't want you to think you're exercising all of a sudden kicked in. So I did what we call the 9-day system, like what Malcolm mentioned. Over 100 active ingredients. When I got to the cleanse days, I thought the scale broke. I released, I think, 12 pounds in my 2 cleanse days, 48 hours, 12 pounds at a plateau. I didn't have a scale. I went to the gym, but I only went there to weigh myself because I wasn't going to work out like I normally do. Me and my wife were there. I stepped on it and I'm like, and it was like I kept scooting the little thing back. And I'm like, what's going on? I stepped off and zeroed it out and it floated right in the middle. I'm like, it's working right. It was the most Twilight Zone moment, when it came to this, that, it was crazy. 27 pounds in 25 days. I'd never felt better. The mental clarity. In fact, on like day 3, I called my wife. I'm like, do you feel that? The fatigue that had plagued me my whole life, gone. Now, so it's a 1-2 punch, right? I'm also doing the meal replacement shake. That the same mind that created this and the shake is the same mind that created the telomere support. And he said, I formulated for over 600 companies. None of them ever let me get this shake to market. He formulated for network marketing companies, direct selling companies, retail companies. He formulated for Joe Weider, the muscle and fitness guy that created muscle and fitness, and the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and all those guys, the Lou Ferrignos. He formulated for that guy. And he said, nobody, I don't care who it was, nobody let me get the thing to the customer the way I wanted to. And so he had to start his own company to get around that. So after 30 years, 600 companies, 2,500 different health products, he created his dream. And he said with the Cleanse for Life, and they told this story a lot. I haven't heard it lately, but back in the beginning, John Anderson was with Jim and Kathy, and Jim Vancouver asked John, "Hey, John, we have such a big problem with toxicity in today's world. Is there a way to support the human body so that it can detox every cell in the body?" And they said John went into a trance right in front of them. And Kathy and Jim were looking at each other like, this is weird. John stands up from the table and he said, "I got it. I'll be back and in 2 days, and I'm going to have a little system put together." He literally says he was divinely inspired. He says the ingredients were nothing new, but when you incorporate these synergistic blends, the way you do it matters. And he went and formulated it, and he already knew how to make the shake that nobody ever let him produce. And they shipped it out to like 200 people. Tony Escobar, who lives right here in St. George, got one of the packs. Their network was big, and they sent him out to people who they knew would be influencers, and they gave the instructions and they tried it. And their phone was ringing off the hook by day 8, day 9, day 10 with all of this results. And the biggest one was weight loss. And so weight loss happened serendipitously. It was like a result of detoxing the body so well. And John says, yeah, I was totally divinely inspired in that. And so 53 pounds in 8 weeks. And now it's 20 years now. It's been 20 years for me. And I just finished. For me, I cleanse on a weekly basis. And sometimes I'll do a 24-hour cleanse, sometimes a 48. Sometimes I'll take some at night before I go to bed. Sometimes I'll start like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go through the night, take some the next morning. I just make a lot of the things that are in, not a lot, some of the things that are in here. John Anderson found that the people in the Himalayas, the Hutus, were drinking as a tea every day with every meal. And he started asking them questions. Shilajit, like he learned about Shilajit and got the rights to mine it from the tops of the Himalayas. And so different things like that. We're getting stuff from Russia that's in there. And so just an incredible elixir to help support the organs, to chelate out the bad stuff. And as a side benefit, better mental clarity, hormones, all kinds of things. But the biggest one has been weight loss over the years. So I was going to mention this too for Dr. Rogers, Michael Colgan. He trains Olympic athletes. There's the Colgan Institute out of Canada. He was on our doctor's advisory board for years. And he said, when I got on isogenics and I did that 9-day system, I dropped he's already fit. Like he says, I'm in my prime at 82 years old. He dropped 2% body fat and put on 6 pounds of muscle at 82 years old. He said, not only is that impressive, that's impossible for that amount of time and for the age that I'm at. And he promoted isogenics from the stage. He's got some great YouTubes out there. I was going to look for one and share it today, but I neglected to do that. So anyways, that's the 1-2 punch for the results that we see like this with Peter Ullman. That's 1 month. He did 2 back-to-back 9 days like me and Malcolm. And here he is 20 years later. So again, there's different ways to do it. This is the most, I want to say aggressive, but that sounds like, I don't know, kind of negative. It's the most productive you could do. You're getting your body into ketosis these last, probably 12 hours when you're doing a 48-hour. And we see the best results when we do back-to-back like that. You can do a 1 day every week. I do that basically as a maintenance. I love cleansing. I love it because of the way it makes me feel, and I always feel comfortable in my clothes. It's the great equalizer. It could even make up for Thanksgiving. You just cleanse on Monday and everything you gain on Thanksgiving is gone. So we've seen people do this before their weddings, before cruise ships. This is how we built the company in the beginning, was with this 9-day system. It's really 11 days, so I don't know why we call it a 9-day. But anyway, that's the cleansing. That's why we see that. And I'll show on the clinical, right here. This is one of the things that Dr. Paul said, I wouldn't have believed it if somebody handed me these results. I wouldn't believe these things. But also we're seeing the body do something we've never seen it do. That's another reason why I wouldn't have believed it. This is the visceral fat that's around the organs in an MRI cutaway of a participant from the 6-month study. And you can see this fat here is gone in the same person. He says, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care how much you're exercising. I don't care how clean you eat. That never happens. So that goes to show, and they cleansed 1 day a week, and they got to eat more calories than the other group that was on the heart healthy diet, doing the Mediterranean diet, and we still released 4 times more fat and put on 4 times more muscle with no exercise in that study. So there's the protein bioavailability, and there's the chelation of the toxins from the fat. What were you going to say, Malcolm?
Well, we traded fat for muscle, and in that men's performance study, what they saw with male athletes was a 1,400% increase in lower body explosive power. That's what got me for skiing. When I saw that statistic, I got thinking, okay, I'm going to get back my thunder thighs. And that's basically what really hooked me was that result with the men's performance study. And of course, the women, female athletes, had a 500% increase in upper body explosive performance because Dr. Paul has a laboratory that can measure explosive power in the upper body and the lower body. He's invented the equipment to measure that.
That's his passion, is working with athletes. And in this one,
right,
when they advertise for to the public, hey, I'm going to do a clinical, I want athletes in peak performance. You have to be working out at least 5 days a week. You have to be on supplements. He said more people showed up for that study. They did it in a high school gym, and they weeded out all but the top 40 of the most peak performing athletes. And he said, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're only going to work out 4 to 5 days a week. Some of them were working out 6 and 7 days a week. You're not going to take your supplement anymore. You're only going to take isogenics. And he said that almost caused some of them to get out because they were so into what they were doing and felt like, I've done all this work and now you want me to do what? And he said, I knew they were going to get better results, but like the other study I did, I had no idea. These are outliers. He says this was off the charts compared to what I thought I would see. I mean, 400 times more cardio power, 1,400 times more lower body explosiveness. So that's why you're out there on the ski slopes day after day at 70 years old, outperforming the teenagers and the 20-year-olds.
Well, yeah, and you think about
Plus
it.
The telomere support.
The top of Mammoth Mountain is 11,000 feet. And it used to be when I'd drop off that cornice, by the time I'd get down to chair 25, I'd be out of breath. I wouldn't be able to talk. And now, no problem. I mean, I'm not out of breath anywhere I ski.
Yep.
Hey, Dave, you know what? I got so excited about Malcolm talking about his thunder thighs. I told Cynthia, I said, if you get on this product, you can get some thunder thighs. And I couldn't see for 2 days. She knocked the snot out of me.
Is that what that 5-finger print was on the side of your?
I mean, I was excited about it. It's like, baby, you need to get on this stuff and get them thunder thighs back, and bam, just like that.
That's not a good thing for a girl.
Tell your story. What's up with your
a
workout?
Good thing is, I got the guns.
Yeah, show us your gun. Yeah. Hang on, I've got to turn off the background there.
Let's go to the gun show.
There we go. Okay.
I was working out, doing all the good things, eating keto, paleo, had 13 pounds I couldn't lose, thought I was doing everything right, and then I met Malcolm. No, my life has changed. It took him about 6 months to get me on board with all of it. And then all of a sudden, my 19-minute workout on my power plate that I wasn't getting any results on turned into amazing results. I lost my 13 pounds. I got some muscle definition.
Woo, look at that. The gun show. Nice.
It's a great thing. I just wish everybody would jump on board and be healed.
That's awesome. I agree.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So anyways, Randy, you guys, Dr. Rogers, everybody, thanks for being on. And anybody have any questions? I don't think did I unmute it? I don't think allow participants to unmute. So anybody can ask a question if they'd like, or make a comment, add to it.
Actually, you know what I noticed when you did that, Dave? I was the only one that you muted. You unmuted everybody else. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, you talk too much. No, I'm just kidding. I talk too much.
Hey, you know what? We have fun. You know why we have fun? It's because we feel so stinking good. I mean, it's absolutely when you feel good, and it makes it the best salespeople, or actually I call them share people because you always want to share. When you feel good, you want to share with other people, right? And you just want to have a conversation. You don't feel good, you just kind of do this. I mean, you kind of it's like you can smile, like, how you doing today? Well, I'm good, I'm good, But now you can say, like, no pain. It's like, man, I'm fabulous today. I'm on top of the world. I'm up on that roof doing that roof, and I'm sending pictures to Craig, right? Hey, Craig, take a look at these streets. We're in West Nebraska. And they're dirt streets, right? It's like, like the cowboys are going by, with the horse and wagon and stuff, and like the little pilgrims and stuff. And he's going, that's dirt streets. I go, yeah.
You're like Malcolm sending pictures up from the snow lifts, and he's like always posting them and sending.
Yeah.
You're up on the top of the house taking pictures of the view.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's fun to be up there, man.
Well, and how much more productive are you, right? How many people get taken out of what they love doing, what their passions are, or maybe what they need to do to survive, and now their like survival level goes way down. The productive level is off the charts.
Yeah.
I've had women, older women that have a hard time going up the stairs. Once they get on the telomere support, they're like, I didn't realize it, but I went right up the stairs, and I'm like, wait a second, that was different because I usually stop halfway up, catch my breath, and then go the rest. And they just zipped right up. And then I'd hear about them going out to the mailbox. And then I'd hear about, Joe couldn't keep up with them at the mall, all these amazing quality of life stories.
Yeah, my mom, 87 years old.
Yeah.
I gave it to her for her back, thinking, it was her back, but she's on oxygen all the time. Couldn't go downstairs anymore. Off the oxygen now, off her oxygen within like a couple weeks, and going up and down the stairs. And she says, I feel like I'm 10 years younger already. And it's like, wow, that's cool.
Yep.
It's
So
amazing.
we got something really special here, you guys. And, you might think you found this product, but I think this product found you. And for a time such as this, we need people who are leaders and people who are, not afraid to be rejected, because you still get a lot of rejection even with the greatest product on the planet. And so it takes some, intestinal fortitude. But I've seen people come and go. I've seen people's lives saved who have come and gone, and it's just unfortunate, the psychology of us humans. But I'm not coming and going. I am staying here. I've planted my flag, and I'm here to support everybody in whatever way I can. So with that, I know we went long, a lot of information, but appreciate everybody being on. And every Thursday night, we'll start off with the telomere support. Okay, you guys, awesome.
And we'll be back. We'll be back Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, which is 11 a.m. Eastern time. So
Rhonda and I do that together. Rhonda's been in 22 years.
Rhonda's astounding. And she actually, what got her was 10 pounds of sticky fat. That's her story.
John Gray shared it with her. She is friends with John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus.
Yeah.
He's the one that shared it with her.
Yeah. Well, she ran his publishing company.
Yeah. All right, you guys, awesome. Have a great night.
The Cincinnati phone is on. The phones are ringing right now.
Get with Alicia, Randy. Alicia, get with Alicia.
Call us, Alicia.
Bye.
Hey, seriously,